presents the Great American Baseball Quiz.
Hey, team's taking the field. Oh, look at this. Say, hey, Willie. Oh, my goodness, there's the Hammer and the Splendid Splinter and Pee-wee and the Wizard, and there's Yogi behind the plate on the big train. Have you caught on yet? The name of the game is nicknames. Let's play ball. Part 1 of this edition of the quiz consists of 12 multiple-choice questions worth half a point each. We begin with someone who truly deserved his nickname. In his 13-year career, Al Hrabowski pitched for 3 big league teams and was one of the better relievers in the game. But he's best remembered for antics like this. At least this umpire knew that sometimes the only response to Hrabowski's shtick was some stick of his own. What was Al Hrabowski's nickname? The Mad Hungarian, the Mad Liberian, the Mad Librarian, the Raging Romanian. Well, he wasn't Romanian, and he wasn't Liberian, nor was he a librarian. Al Hrabowski was the Mad Hungarian. Cleveland's Mike Hargrove steps up to the plate. The pitcher is ready, and Hargrove is still stepping up to the plate. The infield is ready, and Hargrove is still stepping up to the plate. Mike Hargrove was, shall we say, a deliberate ball player, but the question is, what was his nickname? The human highlight film? The human rain delay? The human 7th inning stretch? Or Big Mike? I like Big Mike, but that's not it. Neither is a 7th inning stretch. Give yourself half a point if you said the human rain delay. This Washington Senator's nickname was the Big Train, and from 1907 until his retirement in 1927, he was brilliant, winning a total of 416 games, losing just 279, and compiling a .217 career ERA. What was the Big Train's real name? Was it Choo Choo Coleman, Casey Jones, Christy Mathewson, or Walter Johnson? Well, Casey Jones was an engineer. Choo Choo Coleman was a New York Met, and Mathewson was known as Big Six. The Big Train was Walter Johnson, of course. In his heyday in the late 70s and early 80s, the Yanks' Ron Guidry dominated the American League almost as impressively as Walter Johnson had 60 years before. One of Guidry's nicknames is Louisiana Lightning. What's his other nickname? Is it the Ragin' Cajun, Crawfish, Gator, or Crocodile Guidry? Crawfish, no. And if you pick D, you've seen too many movies. Ragin' Cajun is wrong, too. Give yourself half a point if you knew that Ron Guidry is known as Gator. Bill Rizzuto, another Yankee great. In 1950, Rizzuto was named the American League's most valuable player in recognition of his .324 batting average and his superb defensive play at shortstop. For half a point, what was Phil Rizzuto's nickname? Was it A, Pee-wee, B, Rabbit, C, Scooter, or D, Slats? Well, all these guys were shortstops. Slats was Marty Marion, Rabbit was Rabbit Moranville, and Pee-wee was Pee-wee Reese. Phil Rizzuto's nickname was the Scooter. Big Dave Parker has slugged the around for the Pirates, the Cincinnati Reds, and the Oakland Athletics since 1973. He's quick, dangerous, and he packs a wallet. What is Dave Parker's nickname? Is it the Mongoose, the Cobra, the Water Moccasin, or the Giant Anaconda? Parker's not the Water Moccasin. He's not the Giant Anaconda, and he's too big to be a mongoose. Dave Parker is the Cobra. New York's Mookie Wilson is a real crowd pleaser. Number 1 of the Mets is fleet-footed, clever on the base paths, and he runs into walls and he still hangs on to the ball. Mookie is a singular name for a singular ball player. But what is Wilson's real name? Is it indeed Mookie, or is it Woodrow, Flip, or William? Not Woodrow. Could have been Flip, Mookie, or William. The correct answer is William. Ted Williams was one of the greatest players ever to hoist a bat in the history of baseball, so it was fitting that the Red Sox hero had several nicknames. Now, which one of the following was not Ted Williams' nickname? A, the Splendid Splinter. B, the Beantown Bomber. Was it the Thumper or Teddy Ballgame? Williams was widely known as the Splendid Splinter. The Thumper was another one of his handles, and he called himself Teddy Ballgame. Williams was never known as the Beantown Bomber. In 1987, Jeffrey Leonard of the Giants hit a home run in each of the first 4 games of the National League Championship Series against St. Louis. Leonard has since moved over to the Seattle Mariners, and he brought his nickname with him. What is Jeffrey Leonard's nickname? Is it the Hackman, Pac-Man, Batman, or Lenny? You can forget Batman, and you can toss out Pac-Man. Lenny sounds right, but it isn't. Jeffrey Leonard is the Hackman. Andre Dawson was great with the Montreal Expos for 10 years. And since he went to the Cubs in 1987, he's gotten even better, hitting 73 home runs in his first 2 years with Chicago. Do you know what Dawson's nickname is? Is it Andre the Giant, B, the Hawk, C, Le Hawk, or Elvis? Andre the Giant is way off, and even the Quebecers never called him Le Hawk. Elvis is blatantly ridiculous. Dawson's nickname, valid only in English, is the Hawk. For 18 years, Dwight Evans has patrolled right field for the Boston Red Sox, and his accurate throwing arm has kept many a runner honest. Meanwhile, at the plate, he has hit more than 350 home runs. Evans is beloved by the Fenway faithful, who know him by what nickname? A, Huey, B, Dewey, C, Louie, or D, Hank? Evans is not Hank. He's not Louie, and he's not Huey. He's Dwight Dewey Evans. The things Yogi Berra has done to the language have made him a legendary figure in American folk history. But some may have forgotten that the former Yankee spoke quite eloquently with his bat. They may have also forgotten that Yogi's real name is Yogington, Yogford, Yoganol, or Larry. Well, Yogford is way off, but Yoganol is pretty close. Yogington is very close, but the answer is Larry or Lawrence. That's it for part 1 of this edition of the Rolaids Great American Baseball Quiz. We'll be right back with more questions. League managers live by a set of rules, and those rules can be found in a book that's never been written. It's called Playing the Percentages. And when the game is on the line, it's how most managers play the game. In this part of the Great American Baseball Quiz, we're going to see if you know the right moves from the wrong moves. We'll give you some actual game situations and let you be the skipper. Make your call by the book and you'll get credit for the right answer. But as we'll see, the book isn't always right. Each correct answer in part 2 is worth either 1 or 2 points. Pay close attention. These situations can get pretty tricky. Lefty Dan Plesac, the ace reliever of the Milwaukee Brewers, is on the mound with a 1-run lead against the Athletics and 1 out in the 9th. But Plesac surrenders a double against the wall that puts the potential tying run in scoring position for Oakland. The next man up is Dave Henderson, a good right-handed bat. Now, if you're manager Tom Treblehorn, you're faced with a dilemma. Should you walk Henderson to set up a double play, or should you pitch to the righty with your best left-handed pitcher? The book says you pitch to Henderson because you never put the winning run on base. Let's see what happened.
1-0 pitch is hit in the air into left center field. Well hit. Back on the board goes Robin Yount at the wall. It's gone. Home run. And the A's win the ball game 5-4.
Well, it just goes to show you that playing by the book doesn't always work out. Not walking Henderson was, at least technically, the right thing to do. So if you said pitch to the guy, give yourself a point. Whitey Herzog gabs away as the Cardinals and L.A. are tied up in the bottom of the ninth, and the Dodgers have a winning run at second base. There's one out, a lefty on the mound, and with first base open, Herzog decides on an intentional walk to set up the force and maybe the double play. Herzog has a righty available in the bullpen, and he knows that Lasorda, at the number 9 spot in the order, is going to send up a pinch hitter. And the Cardinals know who that is going to be. Rick Dempsey, a less than menacing right-handed batter. Now, if you're Herzog, do you use a southpaw or a righty? Well, Herzog decided to stay with the lefty, figuring Dempsey isn't enough of a threat to justify a pitching change. Now, let's see what happens.
That's going to score the winning run. Dempsey is a hero, and the Dodgers win.
Herzog figured wrong. He went against the book, which says you face a righty batter with a righty pitcher. So if you said, put in the righty, give yourself 2 points. Davy Johnson's Mets are winning by 2 in the 9th inning with nobody out and Dodger runners at the corners. Roger McDowell induces the batter to hit into a double play, which allows the Dodgers to score a run. But that's fine because the Mets are now just 1 out away from victory. But the right-handed McDowell allows the next batter a base hit, putting the potential tying run at first base. Johnson decides it's time for a little conference because the left-handed batting Mike Scioscia is at the plate. If you're Johnson, what do you do? Leave in the righty or go to the bullpen for a lefty? If you're blessed with a relief staff as good as Davy Johnson's, it's no skin off your back to bring in southpaw Randy Myers to face Scioscia. The Dodgers counter by putting righty Rick Dempsey into pinch hit. Maybe Tommy Lasorda figures Dempsey will repeat his heroics from our last question. Myers prepares the deal, and let's see what happens.
And it's strike 3 called. The fastball gets him, and the Mets win the game.
Both managers went by the book here. They tried to get the lefty-righty advantage. So if you said bring in the lefty, give yourself 1 point. Roger Craig's Giants are beating the Reds by a run, and they're looking to add to that lead. With 1 out, they have runners at first and third, and they would love to get another run, but they don't want to hit into a double play. If you were Roger Craig, what would you do in this situation? The Giants try a bunt. And is that ever a mistake? Now there's 2 out, and the runner on third is erased. Roger Craig went against the book. If the game had been tied or the Giants down by a run, then the squeeze might have been a good idea. But here Craig should have ordered a hit and run. A grounder like this would have done the job. If you said hit and run, give yourself a point. The Royals' John Wathan looks on as Willie Wilson walks to lead off the bottom of the 9th in a tie game. Kurt Stillwell's up next, and Texas manager Bobby Valentine knows that the Royals are going to do something to advance the speedy Wilson. Stillwell gets the sign, and yes, sir, it's a bunt, but he fouls it off. Now that everyone knows about the bunt, Wathan might want to have Wilson steal second. But the Rangers are thinking the same thing, and they try a pitch out, but Wilson stays put. So now, with both teams having shown bunt and pitch out, the chess game proceeds to the next level. If you were Wathan, what would you do now? The book says if you've got a speedster like Wilson, send him. Let's see what happens.
Wilson about a half-step larger lead this time. He's going. Pitches outside, and Petrelli can't find the handle.
Wathan went by the book and ordered Wilson to run. And if that's what you said, give yourself 2 points. Now watch as Stillwell fouls it off, trying to bunt Wilson to third, setting up the next play.
Little looper into center field. That's going to fall for a base hit. Here comes Wilson. He's being waved home. SP's throw could have a shot, and he's safe. The game is over, and Petrelli can't believe it.
And Bobby Valentine wants another look at that darn book. That's it for part 2 of the Rolaids Great American Baseball Quiz. We'll be back right after this. I doubt if I could have made it to the Hall of Fame in this sport, but it's a lot easier on the knees than crouching behind home plate. I didn't have time to get serious about another sport while I was playing baseball, but a lot of other guys did. In this part of the Great American Baseball Quiz, we'll see how well you remember the Moonlighters, baseball players who also had pro careers in other sports. Watch this. Woo! Maybe it's not too late. Yeah! In part 3 of this edition of the Great American Baseball Quiz, each correct answer is good for half a point. Bo Jackson of the Kansas City Royals may strike out a lot, and he may lose his temper on occasion. But he's also an outfielder capable of making spectacular catches like this one. And he's a deadly home run hitter as well. Jackson is also an excellent football player who once won the Heisman Trophy. Where did he win it? Jackson won the Heisman Trophy as a running back with the Auburn Tigers in 1985, when he led the nation in rushing with 1,786 yards. Since then, he spends his autumns with the LA Raiders and his springs and summers with the Kansas City Royals. And he's the most successful moonlighter around today. For years, Danny Ainge has been a playmaking guard for the Boston Celtics and the Sacramento Kings. But from 1979 to 1981, Ainge was a utility man for a Major League Baseball team. For half a point, can you name that team? Danny Ainge played for the Toronto Blue Jays for 3 years. He hit only 2 home runs and compiled a career batting average of just .220. But the Jays used him at a number of positions in the field where he was often very good. Still, he was better at basketball. This former Giant and Packer lineman is the only man in both the Football and Baseball Hall of Fame. Can you name him? Cal Hubbard. After he retired from football in 1936, Hubbard went on to a long career as an American League umpire. Dave DeBusschere starred for the New York Knicks championship teams of the early 70s. But before that, DeBusschere played for what Major League Baseball team? DeBusschere was a pitcher for the Chicago White Sox in 1962 and 63, pitching in 36 games before moving on to basketball. This future member of the Basketball Hall of Fame played in the Brooklyn Dodger organization before joining the NBA in 1950. Can you name him? The answer is Bill Sharman, who starred as a sharpshooting guard for the Celtics from 1951 to 61 and went on to great success as coach of the LA Lakers. Ken Harrelson, alias the Hawk, played for the Boston Red Sox and 3 other Major League teams over his 9-year career. 1968, he hit 35 home runs, 3rd best in the American League. But in 1971, at age 30, he gave up baseball to pursue what other sport? Harrelson tried to qualify for the Pro Golfers Tour, but he never made it. However, he did get to wear some neat hats. At 6'8", Gene Conley was an imposing sight on the mound during his 11-year Major League tenure with the Braves, Phillies, and Red Sox. He had a career record of 91 and 96 and struck out 888 batters. But Conley moonlighted another sport. What was it? Telling you Conley's height, it was a giveaway. During baseball's offseason in the 50s and 60s, Conley played basketball for 5 years with the Boston Celtics and for 2 years with the New York Knicks. Speaking of basketball, this young man played hoops for Creighton University and even had a brief stopover with the Harlem Globetrotters before taking up baseball. He's now in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Who is he? It's Bob Gibson, the overpowering St. Louis Cardinal ace who topped his incredible 1968 season with a World Series record of 17 strikeouts in Game 1 against the Tigers. Gibson made the right choice when he switched to baseball. George Halas founded the Chicago Bears and was the NFL's guiding light for over 60 years. But what team did Halas play Major League Baseball for? Halas played 12 games as the Yankees right fielder in 1919. Who replaced him in right? Babe Ruth. But it didn't bother Halas because 1 year later he founded the Chicago Bears. This Rochester Red Wing never made it out of the minors, but he did become a Football Hall of Fame quarterback. It's slinging Sammy Baugh, whose passing arm led the Washington Redskins to the NFL title in 1937 and 1942. Finally, this all-around athlete tried a number of sports before he found his true calling. What is he better known as? He's better known as the Rifleman, because he's Chuck Connor. That ends part 3 of the Great American Baseball Quiz. We'll be back with more of the Rolaids Great American Baseball Quiz to add up your score. Better load up the wagon, Paul. Hi, I'm Johnny Bench, speaking to you for the makers of Bubblicious Bubblegum, the proud sponsors of Little League Baseball and its Challenger division for handicapped youngsters. When I was a kid growing up in Oklahoma, I used to play ball in school and with a local American Legion baseball team. One thing baseball has taught me is not to be afraid of failure. The important thing is that you go out there and give it your very best. And remember, have some fun while you're playing, because baseball is fun. And so is chewing Bubblicious. The baseball announcer who popularized the phrase catbird seat was Dodger and Yankee broadcaster Red Baba. If you had the old redhead, give yourself another point. Disappointed with your score? Let me show you how a home team announcer can make you feel better about your final totals. If you got between 8 and 10 points, you are a superstar. Between 11 and 14 makes you the straw that stirs the drink. Between 15 and 19 points means that you are a legend in your own time. A perfect 20 makes you a breed apart. And don't feel bad if you got less than 8. You are simply playing within yourself. For the Great American Baseball Quiz, this is Johnny Bench.
The Great American Baseball Quiz.